Do you really want to be a successful developer? No, I mean, do you really want to be a successful developer? Follow this one thing early on, and I guarantee your life will be much easier. Stay tuned. What's going on, folks? Candid Dev 00. Let's go. Back with another one again. So this one's a tricky one here. Check this out. Work harder, not smarter. Think about that for a minute. So, Kev, what do you mean by that? Work harder, not smarter? I don't think you had that right. I think it's more so work smarter, not harder, right? Wrong. The way that works is if you're working smarter early on in your career or this journey of yours, you're going to struggle. That is not the way to go. For this reason, listen, when you're first starting, you don't know HTML, you don't know CSS, you've heard of these things, you've seen it, but you don't have a deeper understanding of it. So going in this rat race trying to hurry up and finish and get to the latest, greatest framework is not the way to go. The way the process needs to go is repetition, repetition, repetition. You heard it probably too many times before, but again, in order for this stuff to stick, you have to keep going at it, and going at it. It takes constant plugging away, day in, day out. Ideal time, honestly, in an ideal world, you got about maybe 4 or 5 hours you can dedicate a day to coding. Some may not have that. So you use what you can. Think about some things that's going on in your life. Think about the time where your gaming time, your lounging around doing nothing time. Just think of all this other extra wasted time. We all have some. So all that extra wasted time you have is the time you need to plug away, and don't waste any opportunities on that. With that being said, is you don't want to just settle for passive learning. So I gave you a list of channels. You'll see it listed here in somewhere here in the video, stamp for that. But I gave you a list of channels to check out and follow. And here's the thing: you follow them, but also do the work. Do the work with them. Child Codes said it best in this channel. It takes more than just following along, doing a tutorial, building a project, and then you're making it your own, or more so you need to make it your own, and you have what they have on the project. That's not going to count for anything. First of all, you've got to learn the basics. HTML, you need to take your time and build out a page. Make it something interesting, something about whether it's gaming, family, sports, something, and use that passion or that interest in that part of your life and put it into your code. Put that together first. And immediately after that, start styling your work. That's when you go in with CSS. Take your time and learn it. I gave you a list of resources. I gave you tools that are in browser based. If you want to just learn like how to just kind of go in and just play around with things right away, and then go hop it into your favorite text editor you have downloaded. And I have a list of those down below, or of some that if you don't know of any, and just play with those and then add that in there. So then after styling, get a little bit of logic in there, a little bit of JavaScript, a little bit of some event handling. So when a button click, just let it alert and say hello on the screen, just so you'll get an idea of how this stuff works, right? That's about all you have to do. Once you get that grasp understanding, that's when you go and level up a bit more. This is where I would say you can honestly branch off and do some Python or any programming language from this standpoint, just so you can have a basic understanding of the web and its first, this most core language. So, or one of them. But anyway, and start there. Then with that being said, you can start going to some logic. This is when you start learning about some algorithms, some logics where you can do some Booleans, like do some true false settings. This in a nutshell, click a button. You can click a button, it'll turn the screen green. The button again, turn the screen back to white, something like that. So learning these different logics, these different functionalities of JavaScript or any language for that matter will be the next step, so that you can learn it at its core. So again, you may have heard of vanilla JavaScript. Vanilla JavaScript, I've already said it one time before as well. It's the basic foundation of JavaScript. So it's your basic event handlers that manipulates the DOM. So that means it just changes things right in front of your eyes based on a mouse click, moving your mouse over on a hover or a key down, maybe space bar, enter, and something happens, right? so that information is logged, something takes place afterwards. So learning these basics helps you in the whole grand scheme of this thing is when you start learning things like that, because there's so many more steps, honestly, before going to a framework. You got to have a solid understanding of HTML, CSS, JavaScript. That's a start. After that, you got to learn how to make HTTP requests. So you got to know how to know a little bit of how the back end works. Enough to know that information is fed from the front end to the back end to retrieve some data of some sort from the back end, and then the back end brings it back and presents it the way you want it by how you styled it on the front end of the website. So, or the web application. So that's the gist of it. Kind of seeing it and doing it are two different things. That's another point. Another point would be to make sure it's aggressive learning. So that's the gist of this whole thing, is aggressive learning. So when you're watching the tutorials, or if you're coding with a buddy, or if you just decide to just dive in and plug away, is to go in, put your code in, make sure it works, and then leave yourself notes behind. So if you don't know how to make comments, check out some videos on how to make, Google how to make comments. Don't wait to always check out a video. Take advantage of Google. Every developer uses Google, Stack Overflow, Reddit. There's so many different platforms to get help on. I mean, there's some Discord channels out there. There's so many different outlets. Start with Google, and then find that solution. When you find that solution, add yourself a comment down there on what you did to get it done, right? So that when you come back and backtrack, you can always come back into your code and never get lost. And you also can remember the logic, the steps that it took to complete that process. So you'll never have to redo or learn something back over. You don't want to have to waste time relearning. That's where the aggression comes in. The aggressive learning is you are learning and applying immediately. And you're leaving yourself some wonderful notes behind that are at least clear enough for you to understand. That being said, also, you want to be able to document your learning process. It can be in the good old form of good old journal, some type of log somewhere, a notepad on your tablet, on your phone somewhere, but you need to note this thing. Or you can take it a step further and vlog. That's what my journey is to teach others and stuff, but I'm vlogging about my life and my whole work process, from freelancing to maybe even one day working for a company, being a dev somewhere. So the goal is, though, is you want to be able to track where you came from and where you are going to see that growth. You want to be able to know if there's any growth. It's hard to track that if there's no form of any trace of any information from where you were to where you are now. You have to be able to track that, all right? So remember that this is not a rat race. This is very doable. But again, it takes repetition and aggressive learning, and it takes that working harder, not smarter. The smarter comes in later. Smarter means now we rev up to a framework because we learned all the logistics of what takes place from the front end to the back end. And now we got an idea of how this works. We need a faster way to speed up productivity. That's when you grab a framework. A framework that's its intended purpose. It's not a substitute for HTML, CSS, and vanilla JavaScript from a standpoint of learning it, but not that. That made any sense right there. All about speeding up work productivity. I already know what I'm doing. I just need a faster way to get it done. Thus, we have frameworks. Don't forget that. All right, guys. So that's enough for me. I think I rambled a little bit too long. But remember, guys, if you haven't already, hit the sub button. Hit that thumbs up. Get this algorithm to push me up in the right direction, please, folks. And again, this is Kel Double O. Let's go. We out.